The peopling of North Africa is a complicated story. And it's complicated because North Africa is made up of multiple populations. Now, the very first people there were Africans. And they were descended from the people who created the Saharan rock paintings. And their descendants in North Africa are still there. They're called the Haratin Berbers and the Chauchen Berbers. Then you had a second group of people joining the populations in North Africa, Europeans. There was a European invasion of Egypt, and this invasion was during the time of Ramses III, and these invaders were called the Sea Peoples, coming in from the sea. And they had a big impact, and their descendants are in North Africa today. Then there was the Roman occupation of North Africa in the 2nd century BC, and the Romans ruled North Africa right up until the Arab period. And there was also the Vandal invasion. The Vandals are Germanic speakers. Does that make sense? And that's a very, very important part of history. Scholars don't want to talk about it too much, but it's a very important part of history. Trust me on that one. If I've got some time, I might get into it a little bit later on in the presentation. Then, of course, there was the Arab conquest of North Africa. The reason why so many North Africans are called Arabs is because they're not indigenous to Africa. They come in from Arabia, they conquered their way. Does that make sense? And they conquered in the 7th century AD, and right now, 2022, they're still there, and they are the dominant population. Then you have Europeans, another group of Europeans entering North Africa as slaves. And these people entering North Africa as slaves came from the Slavic states. Slavic states, Eastern Europe. Does that make sense? One of the reasons why Eastern Europeans are to this very day called Slavs, and one of the reasons why Western Europeans have beef with Eastern Europeans. And as you know, that's what Brexit was all about. Right? Someone must have mentioned the war. All right, and then you had another group of people joining the population in North Africa, Africans, who were captured as slaves and brought there after the 16th century. Does that make sense? Now, the point is, do not confuse group 1 with group 5. Are we understanding this? And scholars do that, and why they do that is so they can present all black North Africans as descended from slaves in the 16th century, and then present the Europeans that conquered during the Sea Peoples period as the original North Africans. Do you get it? This is why the details matter. Now, the original Moors, the oldest art in North Africa are the Saharan rock paintings. And the Saharan rock paintings, we feeling that image? And if you can Google them, you can see they're all Africans. And the descendants of that are the Haratin Berbers and the Chauchen Berbers. And that's what a typical Haratin looks like, all right? But we mentioned the Sea Peoples, the Vandals, the Romans, and their descendants, and intermarriage took place between them and the original Moors. Does that make sense? So you now have Moors that look like this. Are we understanding that? Now, this woman is a part of Moorish history too. Does that make sense? So what usually happens is black scholars say, well, the term Moor means black, so it's black history. No, she's in it as well. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right. So what are the terms that appear in the literature? You've got the term Moor, which is the European term meaning dark or black. That's the term Europeans use to describe the black people in Spanish history. Then you've got the term Berber, and that's the term that Arab scholars use. It's a linguistic term, people speaking Berber. The origins of Berber, by the way, is in East Africa, in the Horn of Africa. You can link ancient Egyptian, you can link Berber, you can link Cushitic, which is Somali, you can link Hausa or Chadic. They all go back to one parent, which is in the Horn of Africa. That automatically tells you that the very first Berber speakers were sub-Saharan Africans. Then you've got the term Arab. Now, a lot of scholars are happier using that because it's better than saying African. Do you see why people are happier saying that? Now, in truth, the term Arab can, with justification, be used because the official language used during the Moorish period was indeed Arabic. All right? Then you've got the term Saracen. The Arabian invasion of North Africa was of great consequence. The Arabs conquered their way across between 639 and 708 AD. Many Africans fled south from North Africa to lands south of the Sahara to avoid being enslaved. This is why in Africa today, non-blacks live north of the Sahara and blacks live south of the Sahara. Do we get this? And if you visit any one of the North African countries, the further south you go, the blacker everybody gets, right? Now, those that remained converted to Islam. The Arabs occupied Egypt in 639 AD. They occupied Tripoli, which is Libya, 643 AD, and southwest Morocco by 681 AD. I'm using terms like Morocco because you know where it is on a map. These countries didn't exist under those names at that time. In 698, they appointed Musa ibn Nusair governor of North Africa. However, Musa wanted to take control of Spain, but feared that an invasion at this time would exhaust his armies. So he had to think of, what am I going to do next? Musa ibn Nusair is a Yemeni, so he's from the Arabian Peninsula. But the Yemenis, do any of them look like any of you? Yes. Yes. So that's another story. All right, so what was going on in Spain? Well, in Spain,